She applied everywhere: schools, embassies, media houses, even to radio stations that played multilingual broadcasts. Yet none kept coming. A linguistics graduate fluent in 5 languages: English, Spanish, French, Yoruba, and German. Yet, her fluency seemed like a curse in a land where few valued her kind of brilliance. Her friends never missed a chance to mock her, as they were well-dressed, well-paid, well-placed in glass offices and bank halls. Her hopes dimmed until a call came from a recruiting agency. "With your course, the only vacancy that keeps coming up is a cleaning job, and we would want you to apply for it," the voice said. She was just a hotel cleaner, mopping floors in one of Lagos' most luxurious hotels. But one phone call in flawless German stopped a billionaire in his tracks. The next day, she was summoned to his office. No warning, no explanation. From cleaning rooms to sitting across from Nigeria's most powerful man, what did he want with her? This isn't just a story of luck. It's about destiny, secrets, and a love no one saw coming. Ready to find out what happens? Grab your popcorn and let's dive in.
Hello guys, haven't subscribed yet? Please subscribe now, hit the like button, and leave a comment to help.
Titi's tongues. Titi stood at the frayed edge of her dreams. A linguistics graduate, fluent in 5 languages: English, Spanish, French, Yoruba, and German. Her voice could glide from continent to continent, but still couldn't open the door to a job. Each rejection email felt like a silent slap. Each day at home stretched longer than the one before. Her friends? Oh, they had moved on. Well-dressed, well-paid, well-placed in glass offices and bank halls, they never missed a moment to mock her. 5 languages and still jobless? Maybe you can sweep in 5 dialects too. Their laughter always came with a bite, sugar-coated but cruel. Titi would smile, pretend not to care, but inside it burned. Quietly, deeply. But everything fell apart the day her father died. It was sudden. No warning. One day, he was joking over dinner. The next, she was staring at his lifeless body, the hospital lights flickering above him like dying stars. Her mother broke under the weight. Her younger siblings, too young to understand, just cried for food. And so, the burden settled on her shoulders, unasked but unrelenting. She became everything: the provider, the protector, the shield. She sent out applications. Hundreds. To schools. To embassies. To media houses. To radio stations that played multilingual broadcasts. Nothing. Days turned into weeks. Weeks into months. And then, one late afternoon as the harmattan wind swept dust across the windows, her phone rang. A recruiting agency. Hope fluttered weakly in her chest as she answered. But the voice on the other end? Cold. Dismissive. With your course of study, the only vacancy that keeps coming up is a cleaning job. We suggest you apply for one at the prestigious Grand Crest Hotel, the voice said. Her heart sank. A cleaner? With all she'd studied? With all she knew? But hunger silenced pride. And so she accepted. It stung, but Titi accepted. Pride couldn't feed her family. She ironed her only good shirt and wore shoes that had long lost their shine. On the morning of the interview, she left home before dawn, whispering a prayer with every step. But what she did not know is fate was waiting with a cruel twist for her. Midway to the hotel, the bus she boarded was attacked by armed robbers. In mere minutes, her bag, containing her phone, credentials, transport money, and everything that proved her worth, was gone. Her voice trembled as she begged the robbers to leave her documents. They only laughed. Standing on the roadside, broken, her world collapsed. Tears welled in her eyes, but she blinked them back. A stranger, an old woman with tired eyes and a firm voice, offered her enough money to continue. "Don't let them win," the woman said. Titi arrived late, dusty, disoriented, and empty-handed. The receptionist barely looked at her. The manager dismissed her immediately. "No documents? No interview," he barked. But just as she turned to leave, the HR head, a woman named Mrs. Okeke, overheard the conversation. "Wait," she said. "Come into my office." With a steady voice and fiery eyes, Titi told her story, in flawless English. Her pain bled through her words, her hunger danced with her passion. Silence filled the room when she stopped speaking. 2 days later, the call came. She had topped the interview. She was hired. It had been 6 months since Titi walked into Grand Crest Hotel with nothing but dust on her shoes and hope in her throat. What started as a pity interview became a proving ground. Day after day, she mastered by cleaning not just the VIP suites, conference rooms, and the rooftop lounge, but every important part of the prestigious Grand Crest Hotel until one day. The alarm that changed everything. The 5 a.m. rooster crow sliced through the humid air of Ajagunal, a bustling Lagos neighborhood. Titi Ojo groaned, silencing her cracked Nokia phone alarm. Her tiny one-room apartment smelled of kerosene and dreams deferred. The flickering bulb above her bed cast shadows on the concrete walls and the cracked ceiling, reminding her of the hustle she faced daily. She dragged herself into the bathroom where the water was always ice cold. As it splashed over her face, she repeated the mantra her grandmother had taught her in Yoruba. And now she whispered in English, trying to believe it one day at a time, one step forward. Another day, another chance, she whispered, her grandmother's words echoing in her heart. By 6 a.m., Titi was dodging Okada's motorcycles to catch a Danfo bus to Victoria Island, where she worked at the prestigious Grand Crest Hotel. Her name tag read, Housekeeping Titi. She cleaned the 10th floor, VIP suites, conference rooms, and the rooftop lounge. Fast, quiet, invisible. That's how they liked her. But Titi was more than her faded uniform. Titi held a secret. She held a degree in linguistics from the university, graduating with honors, fluent in English, Spanish, French, and Yoruba, her mother tongue, which she spoke with poetic precision. She'd also taught herself basic German online, inspired by a retired Nigerian German professor she met during a campus seminar. A language she'd fallen in love with, thanks to the visiting lecturer from Berlin during her final year. They had kept in touch, and he'd mentored her virtually ever since. Life, however, had other plans. Her father's sudden death left her family in debt, and Titi took the cleaning job to support her younger siblings. Yet, she never stopped learning. Every nights were spent in a cyber cafe in Yoruba, practicing German phrases on free language apps. She scrubbed gold-trimmed toilets and dusted chandelier crystals that cost more than her father's entire life savings. Every day, she blended into the background unnoticed. Except once. A German guest had gotten lost in the corridors, shouting in frustration. The front desk staff couldn't understand him. Titi heard the commotion from the restroom and stepped out. "We can itch in and helfen, bit? How can I help you, please?" The man froze, stunned, then smiled. From that moment, she guided him through his stay, translating, arranging transport, making him feel seen. He tipped her generously. But more than that, he listened. Asked questions. Saw her not as a cleaner, but as a human being. She returned to her mop after he checked out, thinking nothing more of it. Until the next morning. This morning felt ordinary, until it wasn't. While polishing the marble hallway near the presidential suite, Titi heard the click of polished shoes. She stepped aside, eyes lowered, as 3 men in agbada and suits strode past. One stood out, tall, broad-shouldered, with a commanding presence. Bisi Adebayo, CEO of Adebayo Global Holdings, the enigmatic billionaire owner of the hotel, and a string of other businesses across Africa. He was everywhere in the news, brilliant, ruthless, and fiercely protective of his privacy. Staff whispered about his rise from a mechanic's son in Ibadan to a titan of African hospitality. His sharp eyes missed nothing, or so they said. Or did he? He barely glanced at her, but Titi felt the weight of his gaze. The call that changed her fate. During her lunch break, Titi sat in the staff canteen, reheating jollof rice from a plastic container. Her phone buzzed, a message from her German mentor, Dr. Fritz Ralph Adolf. "You passed your German certification. Call me when you're less busy." Heart racing. Heart pounding, she dialed her mentor. As soon as he answered, "Ijo emoti kojagon and I," she blurted in Yoruba, then switched to German, laughing as Dr. Fritz Ralph Adolf confirmed her professional fluency. "Did I really pass?" "Not only passed, Titi, you nailed it. You're now officially certified at a professional fluency level in German." She couldn't stop smiling, her eyes filled with tears. Years of studying before dawn, staying late at the cafe had finally paid off. She was still talking to Dr. Fritz Ralph Adolf in German, laughing when the door creaked open behind her. Titi turned and froze. Bisi Adebayo stood there, his tailored kaftan framing his imposing figure. "I didn't mean to interrupt," he said in English, stepping further into the room. "Was that German?" he asked, his voice calm but curious. Titi scrambled to her feet, ending the call. "Yes, sir." I'm so sorry, I was on break. No need to apologize, he said, stepping closer. And the other language? Yoruba? Titi nodded, her throat dry. Bisi is stunned. Not just by the German, but by Titi's elegance and the quiet dignity in her voice. Where did you learn it? I studied linguistics, sir. From the university, languages are my passion. They're tools. They build bridges, sir. She avoided his gaze, embarrassed and a little afraid. There was a pause. She braced herself for a warning, but instead Bisi's eyes narrowed, not in anger, but intrigue. Your name, he asked. Titi Ojo. Titi. He nodded, as if committing it to memory. Enjoy your lunch, Titi. Then he was gone. Titi's heart pounded. Was she in trouble? No, she brushed it off, convincing herself it was nothing. But the next morning, while scrubbing the lobby floor, Titi's heart skipped when her supervisor suddenly approached. Titi, he said in a low tone. HR wants to see you. Now. Her breath caught. HR? A cold chill slid down her spine. Had she broken some unknown rule? Was this the end? She wiped her hands on her apron and made the long, echoing walk down the hallway, her shoes clicking against the polished tiles that suddenly felt more like a courtroom floor than a hotel corridor. She stopped in front of the HR office, a space she had always walked past but never dared enter. Her knuckles trembled as she knocked. No answer. She knocked again, softer this time. Her pulse thumped. Finally, a voice. Come in. Inside, Mrs. Funmi Okeke, the HR director, looked up from her desk. Her expression unreadable. Titi, sit. Titi obeyed, hands clasped tightly in her lap, trying to hide the tremor in her fingers. Mrs. Okeke folded her hands and stared at her for a long second. I received an unusual request this morning, she said carefully, her tone giving nothing away. A request from the top. Titi's heart pounded in her chest. From the top? Her brain searched for explanations. Had she offended a guest? Broken a policy? Mrs. Okeke continued. Mr. Adebayo has requested your reassignment. Effective immediately. Titi blinked. Reassigned. Her voice cracked. She swallowed hard. Please, Ma, I don't understand. Have I done something wrong? Her mind flashed to her siblings at home. Her promise to keep them fed since their father's sudden passing. Mrs. Okeke raised an eyebrow, then leaned forward slightly. No, Titi. Quite the opposite. He's created a new role just for you. You've been promoted to International Guest Liaison. It's a newly designed position to work directly with VIPs, especially those needing translation or cultural guidance. Titi blinked again. Her lips parted, but no words came out. Was this a prank? You speak fluent German, Spanish, and French, yes? Titi nodded slowly, still numb. Well, Mr. Adebayo says those talents are being wasted on cleaning. He's heard your phone conversation and seen your interactions with guests. One of them, the German CEO from room 902, personally requested your assistance again. Titi's eyes widened. Your salary will increase significantly, Mrs. Okeke added, sliding a folded letter across the desk. Titi unfolded it and gasped. The number written made her dizzy. Is this real? I mean truly real, she whispered. Mrs. Okeke's lips twitched into the smallest of smiles. Very real. Mr. Adebayo would like to meet you personally after lunch. And you know, he doesn't joke with his words. As Titi left the HR office, the world outside looked brand new. The chandeliers above sparkled brighter than before. The marble floors shimmered beneath her feet like clouds under heaven. Even the lobby flowers smelled richer, deeper, like triumph. The music playing overhead felt like a personal soundtrack to a moment she'd only dreamed of. As she passed colleagues who once looked through her, their eyes now followed her with respect. Guests smiled at her knowingly. She was no longer invisible. She had just stepped into a world she never thought she'd belong to. Is this real? She asked herself as she pressed her hand against her chest, feeling the rapid beat of her heart. Why her? What had Bisi Adebayo seen in a cleaner-speaking German over her lunch break? And more importantly, what was he really looking for? It was all too much to process in one breath. But deep down, something whispered. This was just the beginning. If you were Titi standing at the edge of a life-changing opportunity given by a mysterious and fiercely protective billionaire, what would you do? A new world, a dangerous spark.
Hello guys, haven't subscribed yet? Please subscribe now, hit the like button, and leave a comment to help.
Titi stood in front of the mirror in the staff dressing room, no longer in her cleaner's smock, but a tailored Ankara dress that hugged her curves, as if someone had studied her closely and soft leather heels to match. Her new name tag reading, International Guest Liaison Titi. The absurdity of it all made her chest tighten. How had her life flipped so quickly? Just some days ago, she'd been scrubbing marble tiles in silence. Now, she was expected to sit across from diplomats and CEOs, interpreting conversations in multiple languages for one of the most powerful men in the hospitality industry. Her hands shook as she made her way to the executive suite of the prestigious Grand Crest Hotel, where Bisi awaited her. Titi's heels clicked on polished tile in rhythm with her heartbeat with emotions high. She walked past the opulent chandeliers and high-end art pieces she once dusted, as guests and staff, now meeting her eyes with a mixture of curiosity and confusion as to who is this elegant lady. One man even stepped aside for her. No one had ever done that before. Outside the suite, she paused. The door was opened by a severe-looking woman, who simply nodded and ushered her in. The office was vast, a minimalist space with panoramic views of Ikoyi. Inside, Bisi stood by a floor-to-ceiling window, Lagos skyline sprawling below. When he turned and saw her, his expression shifted into something soft, almost proud. His gaze unwavering. "Ms. Ojo, or may I call you Titi?" "Titi is fine, sir. You look like you belong," he said, offering her a seat. Setting the phone down. "How does it feel?" Titi hesitated, "Sir, like I'm dreaming someone else's life," she admitted. Bisi's laugh was warm, tinged with something deeper. "Maybe you're finally living yours." They sat across from each other on sleek leather chairs. He poured 2 cups of Zobo drink, no assistance, no pretense. For a moment, they were just 2 people in a quiet room above the city. "Good. I believe Mrs. Okeke explained the sudden change in your circumstances." "Yes, sir. But I don't understand. Why me? There must be many more qualified people." Bisi Adebayo smiled, a rare and fleeting expression that transformed his face. "Perhaps. Let me be honest," Bisi said, his voice lower now. "I didn't create this position for anyone else. I created this role for you," he said, "because I saw something in you, something that made me realize I've been overlooking the most talented people by simply not looking. I heard you speaking Yoruba, then German, and I knew I'd been blind to the talent right under my nose." Titi's stomach fluttered. She wanted to trust him, but years of disappointment had made her cautious. Still, there was something in his eyes, a quiet conviction that kept her seated. Bisi leaned forward. "I need your help tomorrow afternoon." "Look, Titi," he continued, "there's a group of German investors coming in. They're considering financing our first European expansion. I need someone I can trust, someone with your language skills, yes, but also someone with integrity and a genuine understanding of different cultures. Someone who doesn't come from this world." He gestured around the opulent suite. "Someone who understands the value of hard work, someone who is real." Bisi paused, as if choosing his words carefully. "The prestigious Grand Crest Hotel isn't just a hotel, Titi. It's a crossroads. People from all over the world come here. Deals are made, secrets are exchanged, and alliances are forged." He leaned forward, his gaze locking onto hers. "I need someone I can trust. Someone who can hear things, see things, and understand the nuances that others miss. Someone who won't be easily swayed by power or money. Do you know the value of secrets? Of loyalty?" Titi felt a sudden chill. This was not just about language skills. This was something else, something dangerous. I believe so, sir." "Good. Because you are now privy to the company." He paused, his eyes locking with hers. "I need someone I can trust. Someone who sees the world differently." Titi's guard was up. Billionaires didn't just notice cleaners. "Why me, sir?" "I've never done anything like this," Titi said, fear creeping in. "I'm not hiring you for experience," Bisi replied. "I'm hiring you for empathy. The rest we'll teach. 'Cause what you have can't be taught." He moved closer, his voice a low murmur. "You are a diamond in the rough, Titi Ojo. And I am going to polish you until you shine." The air crackled with unspoken tension. Titi knew, with a certainty that settled deep in her bones, that her life had irrevocably changed. She had stepped into a world of power, secrets, and danger. And she had no idea what awaited her. He turned away, looking out at the sprawling city. "There are groups of business men arriving from Berlin tomorrow. I want you to meet them." He turned back to face Titi, his eyes hard. "And Titi? Trust no one." As Titi left his office, the weight of his words settled upon her. She was no longer a hotel cleaner. She was something else, something more. But what price would she have to pay for this new life? And what secrets was she now bound to protect? That night, as she lay in her small ajagunal flat, the sounds of the city filtering through the thin walls, Titi couldn't sleep. The golden glow of the prestigious Grand Crest Hotel seemed impossibly distant. She knew, with a growing sense of dread, that her life was no longer her own. She was now caught in a web of intrigue, playing a game with a master player. And she had no idea what the rules were. That afternoon, as the German investors arrived, sunlight filtered through floor-to-ceiling windows as Titi and Bisi took their places at the polished mahogany table in Grand Crest's executive suite. A hush fell over the room as the German investors, stern-faced men in tailored suits, settled into high-backed leather chairs. Bisi offered a stiff nod. The deal hung by a thread of mutual trust and cultural understanding. Titi inhaled slowly, feeling the weight of every eye upon her. In crisp, melodious German, she welcomed them, her voice a bridge across continents. She noted the subtle furrow in her Muller's brow and the way Frau Schneider's lips curved into a polite smile only after she uttered a local proverb in flawless Yoruba, signaling respect for their host's heritage. Midway through the presentation, her bower leaned forward, brow creased. "What about liability clauses regarding local infrastructure?" he asked, his accent rolling over half-dung with deliberate force. Murmurs rippled around the table. For a heartbeat, time stalled. Then Titi quietly translated the legalese into clear, idiomatic Yoruba, offering Bisi a whispered aside. "Emi and Iyu akoso iro yi, emote ayato." "I will handle this issue. I've got it covered." Bisi's shoulders eased. He smiled, relief shining in his eyes. Back in German, Titi reframed the clause with precision and warmth, anticipating every unspoken concern. The investors exchanged glances, nodded, and one by one returned to relaxed postures. When she concluded, the room brightened with genuine applause. As they stepped out into the corridor, Bisi clapped her on the shoulder. "You were phenomenal," he whispered fiercely. "I owe you." Alone in the silent lift, Titi pressed herself against the cool metal wall. The doors slid shut, and she exhaled, her heartbeat finally slowing. "I didn't think I could do it," she admitted, to the humming elevator, to the empty air, to herself. Yet in that quiet moment, she felt the unmistakable pulse of victory. "I did," Bisi said. "From the moment I heard you speak German like it was poetry over lunch." He paused, then added, "There's a place I go to clear my head. Come with me tonight. Just to talk. No obligations, no expectations, just two people talking." Titi hesitated. Her heart said yes, but her mind screamed caution. Still, she nodded. Love in the Lagos lights. That evening, Bisi drove them to a quiet rooftop in Ikoyi, overlooking the twinkling Lagos lagoon. The air smelled of rain and possibility. "Do you come here often?" she asked. "Only when I need to be alone and reflect who I am," he replied. "Or figure out who I want to be." They sat on a bench, sharing suya and drinks. Bisi opened up about his past. Growing up in a one-room home, his mother selling akra while his father, a mechanic, worked tirelessly to fund his education. "I built this empire, but it cost me connections," he said. "Until you." Titi's breath hitched and looked at him, eyes wide. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you make me feel seen," he said. "Not as a billionaire, but as Bisi." The words hung between them, electric. Titi felt it too, a spark she couldn't ignore. As she stared out at the lights of the city below, something shifted in her that she could not tell. For the first time in years, she wasn't just existing. She was seen and heard. She was needed. And maybe, just maybe, she was cared for. Weeks blurred into late-night strategy sessions and stolen glances. Titi became Bisi's trusted liaison, negotiating deals across Africa. The hotel staff noticed her glow, her confidence. The transformation wasn't just professional. She felt it in how people now looked at her, how she carried herself, how the hotel no longer seemed like a palace she cleaned, but a world she belonged to. But doubt lingered. What if this was too good to last? Yet beneath the confidence, there was always a quiet tremor, a voice in her mind whispering, "What if all this vanishes as quickly as it appeared?" That fear clung to her, especially when she and Bisi would talk late into the evening. Their conversations drifting from logistics to life, from business to belief. He never crossed a line, never made her feel uncomfortable. And maybe that was what made it more dangerous. The way he saw her, not as a temporary escape, but as someone who mattered, left her vulnerable in a way success never had. One night, Bisi invited her to his Lekki home. Not a mansion, but a cozy house filled with African art and old vinyl records. He cooked a gussie stew, sleeves rolled up, laughing as Titi teased his knife skills. They spoke not as boss and employee, not even as two professionals, but as two souls who lived through enough to stop pretending. Bisi told her about his father, a mechanic who raised him alone, whose dream was to open a hotel. A dream Bisi had made real, but never shared with anyone. Titi told him about her father, about the photo she still kept taped to her mirror, about how every step forward she took felt like whispering to his memory. "I'm doing it, Dad. I'm still standing." After dinner, they sat on the porch as a quiet rain began to fall. The air between them pulsed with everything they weren't saying. Bisi spoke. "I don't know when it happened, but I can't imagine this life without you." Titi's heart raced. "This is real for me too, Bisi. But people will talk. They'll say I'm here because of you, not my work." "Let them talk," Bisi said. "You and I know the truth. If you want to walk away, I'll respect it. But if you stay, I'll fight for us." Titi took his hand. "I'm staying."
Hello guys, haven't subscribed yet? Please subscribe now, hit the like button, and leave a comment to help.
3 weeks later, the Lagos sun burned like a spotlight from heaven, casting sharp, golden reflections off the chrome detailing of a sleek SUV that purred into the lot of a high-end supermarket in Lekki. The kind of place where the air smelled of imported perfumes and affluence. The SUV came to a smooth stop. The driver's door opened. And out stepped Titi. Not the Titi from the mop and bucket days. This was a different woman. Her transformation stunning, deliberate, and earned. Her navy blue blazer was tailored to perfection, hugging her frame with quiet confidence. Her heels clicked with authority against polished tiles. A gold-accented badge on her lapel shimmered. Titi Adebayo, Head International Guest Liaison, Grand Crest Hotel. She had only come for groceries for her mother. But fate had other plans. As she walked toward the store entrance, the sound of laughter sliced through the air. Loud, shrill, familiar. It halted her in her tracks. "Titi." She turned slowly. Standing near the entrance were Sophia and Laureate, former coursemates. The same women who had once turned mockery into an Olympic sport. Their eyes widened, then narrowed, scanning her from head to toe. Sophia scoffed. "Is this really you? Or are you posing with someone else's car for the gram?" Laureate chuckled awkwardly. "I heard you were working in one hotel like that. What happened? You finally got that cleaner job." Titi didn't flinch. No eye twitch. No broken smile. Just calm. She smiled the way only someone who had earned her glow could. "Yes," she replied softly. "I work at Grand Crest. But I'm no longer in housekeeping." Sophia raised a brow, tone laced with mockery. "So what now? You serve tea at the board meetings?" Titi paused, stepped closer, then tilted her head with slow precision. "Not exactly," she said. "I'm the head of International Guest Liaison. I manage our most elite clients, ambassadors, billionaires, CEOs, and diplomats. I negotiate in French, resolve crises in Spanish, welcome our European partners in German." She leaned slightly forward, and sometimes correct the English of our British guests. Laureate's lip quivered. Sophia blinked, suddenly mute. The same tongue that once spat insults now froze behind clenched teeth. And then beep. Titi pressed her car key. Her SUV's lights flashed, the doors unlocking with a soft purr. She stepped past them, not in a rush, just graceful, confident, undeniably untouchable. Her luxury bag swung at her side, her spirit unshaken. She didn't need to say another word. Her silence screamed everything. Just before entering the store, she turned slightly. "Oh, and Sophia," she said sweetly. "Next time you're job hunting, try linguistics. It might just open doors." The silence behind her was so loud it rang in her ears. As she strolled down the aisle inside, she didn't look back. But from the reflection in the glass doors, she saw them, frozen. Eyes wide, shoulders stiff. Two ghosts of a past that had tried to bury her. She smiled again, not from pride, but from the quiet triumph of knowing she had risen. Alone, unapologetically, and in 5 languages if necessary. A legacy of love. The next morning, news broke. Adebayo Global signed a historic deal for Accra, with Titi's translations credited. She was promoted to Director of International Relations. But the real shock came when Bisi, the private mogul, introduced Titi at a press conference as his partner, in business and life. Gossip swirled, but it faded when their Accra hotel opened. Titi, once a cleaner, now led global teams. That night, in their suite overlooking Accra's coast, Bisi held her. "What are you thinking?" "About every struggle that led here," Titi said, tears falling. "About how love found me when I least expected it." Now pause for a moment. After everything Titi faced, the heartbreak, the obstacles, the silence of those who doubted her, what do you think truly changed the game for her? Was it Bisi's unwavering support? Her own unshakable resilience? Or that bold moment she dared to answer a call in a language not her own? Choosing faith over fear? Now here's the real question. Did her story stir something in your heart? If it did, drop a yes in the comments to show your love. Type Titi if you believe in the power of second chances. And let us know where you're watching from. Wherever you're far or near, your voice matters. Share this story with someone who still believes that dreams can come true, especially when you least expect it. Because sometimes, all it takes is one brave yes.
Hello guys, I hope you enjoyed our stories. Please hit the like button, leave a comment below and subscribe to our channel.